right. Hi, everyone. I'm Arthur, and I am so excited to be with you all here today. By day, I'm all about helping people succeed, and whether that's through sales, coaching, customer success, or just being a friendly face in your corner, I work with an amazing company called Reach Reporting, where we make financial reporting not just easier, but actually kind of fun. And yes, we're going to learn today that fun and finance can go together. This webinar is going to be a great one. So whether you're here to learn, level up, or just not fall asleep during lunch, I promise to do my best to keep things engaging and useful. For just a little bit of quick housekeeping before we dive in, this is a webinar, and so everyone's going to be on mute to avoid any kind of background noise, but this is not a one-way street. We do want to hear from you. So the Q&A chat box is open and ready. Please feel free to drop in your thoughts, questions, or even your hot takes anytime. Note, you can vote on questions or comment on questions as well. So if you see any questions you like, give it a +1 and we'll make sure and get it answered. I've got my right-hand man, Ethan, ready to help. He's quick on the keyboard and will be helping you handle your questions along the way. Please keep the questions rolling. We want this to be as interactive and as helpful as possible. But before we get to any of your questions, we've actually got one for you. And so we're going to kick things off with a quick poll. We want to get to know you a little bit better before we dive into the good stuff. So get ready and please answer this question. The question is, where are you at with reporting today? I'm going to give you a couple moments here to respond. So we're stuck in spreadsheets, making it work. We lean on basic reports. We've tried other tools, but still haven't nailed it. Reporting is a constant headache we need to fix, and we like our current solution. Give us your answers. All right, so here's the poll responses. We're stuck in spreadsheets, but making it work looks like is the lead, but we lean on basic reports is the next one. So that's very, very good. Great to know. And we're going to dive into some more fun stuff here today. So let's get going here and dive into today's agenda. We're going to start by sharing a little bit about what makes Reach Reporting unique, why we do what we do, and why so many people are loving it. Next, we'll show you a little bit about how Reach actually works in a live demo and the magic that happens when reporting becomes not just easier, but better. Then we'll touch a little bit on how professionals can utilize Reach Reporting to offer new and exciting services that truly make a difference in the lives of their clients. And we'll save some time at the end to wrap up with your questions, so keep them coming, and we'll let you know how to take the next steps if you're ready to roll. All right, let's dive in. So generally, what I love to start in any of these conversations is, what is reporting? Really foundational question. I know we're all coming in here with various levels of experience. And so I think it makes sense to build on some simple foundation that will help us understand some really important needs and pain points that Reach solves for. To start, the question that we always pose is, what is reporting? And to help explore this a little bit further, we're going to tell a story, one that dates back nearly 400 years. And it's about a ship, a king, and what happens when communication breaks down. In the early 1600s, King Gustavus Adolphus of Sweden wanted to showcase his power. He ordered the construction of a magnificent warship called the Vasa. This ship was to be the most advanced and powerful in the Swedish Navy, a floating fortress that would strike fear into Sweden's enemies. It was lavishly decorated, boasting ornate carvings and armed to the teeth with dozens of heavy cannons. Now, the shipbuilders were doing their best to meet the king's grand vision, but along the way, the king kept making changes. And at one point, he actually demanded a second gun deck so that the ship could carry even more cannons. But there was a problem. The ship was already top heavy, and adding another gun deck made it dangerously unstable. The builders knew this. They even conducted a test, having men run back and forth across the deck to see how the ship would respond. and it started to sway so much that they stopped the test early. It was clear that the Vesa could not handle the weight. But they didn't report this to the king. Why? Because he was the king. Who were they to question his vision? And so they kept quiet, hoping for the best. The day of the launch came. The vase was beautiful, adorned with elaborate carvings and equipped with 64 bronze cannons. Crowds gathered to watch the Pride of Sweden set out on its maiden voyage. But just a few minutes into the journey, as you might expect, a gust of wind caught the sails. The ship tilted, water poured into the open gun ports, and within moments, the ship sank to the bottom of the harbor. It didn't even make it a mile. The Vasa's sinking wasn't just about bad design, however, it was about bad communication or lack of reporting. The shipbuilders had vital, need to know information. They knew the ship was unstable, but they didn't share that with the king. And because of that, the king made a decision that ended up leading to disaster. And so then, what is reporting? As accountants and advisors, we hold vital, need to know information about our clients' businesses. Our clients, like King Gustavus, have ambitions and goals, but may lack the necessary insights to make informed decisions. It's our responsibility to communicate crucial details such as financial trends, potential red flags, and emerging opportunities to help guide them effectively. For instance, if a client's cash flow is dangerously low or expenses are steadily increasing, these issues can jeopardize the business's stability. By effectively reporting this information, we help clients navigate challenges and steer their business towards success. Thus, reports convey or communicate the need to know information of a business. However, for a client to get value from it, it needs to resonate. If it does not resonate, it does not connect. And if, as an advisor, we're telling the story to the client so that the client knows what buttons to push, what levers to pull to find success, we need the story to connect with them in a way that clearly shows what they need to do with their business based on the information garnered from the reports that we've created. Which brings us to the first problem. Too often we're creating these reports and they go unread. And when they go unread, clients don't understand them, or worse, they misunderstand them, which means we make the report, we share it with the client, they draw conclusions from it that are not true, and of course, they may act on those conclusions, and this can start to get really dangerous. Reports need to be understood, and they need to resonate. This confusion can cause the client to devalue their reports and undervalue their advisor. And whether or not that's always true, what we do know for sure is that the inverse is always true. When they value their reports, they value their advisor. So how can we make reports resonate for clients, increasing the value of the advisor? Clients are desperate for powerful, compelling, and understandable reports, not what they've been getting out of Excel. They need reports that are easy to read, that hold their attention, that are clearly understood, well explained, actionable, and that look sensational. But this brings us to the second big problem. It is nearly impossible to build these reports. Building reports that are descriptive, compelling for multiple clients every month, and to do so at a competitive price, this is an extremely tall order. We're asked to make these amazing, resonating, useful reports, but it has to be affordable, and you have to be able to do it every single month, and not just for one client, sometimes hundreds of clients, and it needs to tell a compelling story, and well, you kind of get the idea. It's a massive, massive pain point. And so we searched high and low the market for tools available to advisors that might be able to help with this. On the one end of the spectrum, we have the hardcore solutions. You may have heard of like Power BI or some of those Tableau, like those heavy data analytic tools. They're amazingly powerful, but they come at a cost. They're extremely costly. They're a massive time investment, and not just a one-time time investment, but a continual time investment. Impossible to duplicate from client to client. And so you would want to build it for one client, and then you would need to start over again and build it for the next client, rebuilding it again from the ground up. And often you would need a highly skilled individual to wield these solutions. On the other end of the spectrum is the simpler solutions. They enable basic functions. Okay, awesome. They seem to check a lot of the boxes, so to speak, but they have a higher repeatability. Sorry, they have higher repeatability, for example, but the cost was functionality. So you can build these reports really quickly, but they're limited in their customizations. The clients wanted non-financial data, for example, customizations or industry-specific metrics. These tools are nearly impossible to alter. And if you can't report to clients information that's meaningful, again, they're not going to read it. They're cookie cutter, so every report kind of looks like the other. And if a client went from one firm essentially to maybe across the street to another firm, they could actually get the same report from both firms. So there's no differentiation across firms. Also, there's significant limitations in the way that they can scale to new users, to new clients. What you could do would require quite significant comprehensive customer support to accomplish. And so because the solutions were either too limited or too hardcore, when we're forced to do something custom, we're forced to go back to the tool that we know best and the tool that we know can get the job done. This means that it's harder, but at least we get it done, right? So we're going back to Excel, Google Sheets. We can always rely on them. They have some cool formulas, but they also come with some inherent problems. For example, the data is not live, requiring frequent updating. The formulas are prone to breaking and errors. Therefore, the data constantly needs to be verified. And the output looks like it came from Excel, which is pretty weak. And finally, it can also be so time consuming that it sometimes is not even worth it. And so we talked to thousands of CPAs, advisors, accountants, CFOs, and bookkeepers over the years of development, literally thousands from all across the world. And these are some of the responses that we got. The perfect reporting solution. Number one, it has to be easy to learn. It has to feel second nature. Feel like you already know how to use it as soon as you step in. Has to be customizable, that you could almost make any change on the fly without having to learn a new system or computing language. Completely automate mundane tasks. It needs to automatically rebuild every single month. It needs to be live or feel completely live. It needs to astonish your clients. It needs to literally make them feel more sophisticated when they read the reports. And finally, it needs to be scalable to multiple clients. Templates were critical. It needed to be something that could be built once and then you could use it again and again and again across your entire client base immediately. So we're going to dive into a demo of this, but before we do, we're going to get to our second poll question. What's the biggest frustration for you? Wasting time every month building reports, consolidating reports for multiple entities, explaining financials to your clients or stakeholders, making reports visual and engaging, forecasting and budgeting is lacking. Going to give you a moment to respond to this. All right. And the lead response is wasting time every month building reports. Okay, fantastic. A couple that were close behind was making reports visual and engaging, and forecasting and budgeting is lacking. Okay, awesome. Well, we're going to dive into all of this. So I'm just going to jump out of this presentation screen and jump into Reach Reporting, and voila, here we are. We are in Reach Reporting. And this is the main home screen kind of landing page that you would see when you first log into Reach. And by simply clicking on Add Company, we sync directly with QBO. And through API, you can essentially get the data directly from your P&L, your balance sheet, your cash flow statement that sits inside of QuickBooks Online, and it automatically comes into Reach Reporting. And we sync with QBO every 24 hours, so it's always refreshing. But what I'll show you when we get in is that you can actually refresh the data on demand as well. So I wanted to quickly show the screen, and then I'm going to dive directly into reporting because I wanted to highlight that we do have the ability to consolidate. And so if you have any clients with several legal entities that you want to bring together into a single report package, we can handle that for you. Uh, as well, we have the ability to handle like eliminations and all that kind of fun stuff. Beyond some of those like consolidation type unique things like eliminations, most of everything else is going to be the same, whether we're in an individual company or a consolidated. So I'm going to dive into an individual. If there's some questions from the attendees here today, specific to consolidations, we can dive into some more details there later on. So here I have Blast Track Products. This is my demo company. I'm going to jump into it by clicking open. And right as we get in here, we're now, you can see the company name at the top. We're now in the company inside of Reach. Now, Reach reporting has two main deliverables that we offer. These are the two communication tools. These are what are going to help keep our ships from sinking. If you take your mouse and move it all the way to the far left, you'll see that we have dashboards and reports. Now, dashboards and reports are very similar in Reach, but they are different in one specific way. A report, once it's published, for example, it's created, it turns into a PDF that's essentially flat. It doesn't change, it doesn't update. You know, an advisor can send a report off to their client every month, maybe quarterly, yearly, wherever that looks like, and they receive it, and that's kind of a record of what's going on at that time of the month or the year or whatnot. Dashboards, on the other hand, are all live. They're not really meant to be printed off. They sit up in the cloud. Essentially, you can bookmark them and share them with your clients. They can look at them on their iPads or their laptops anytime they want, and it's kind of on demand. So I'm going to dive into a little bit of both so you can kind of see the differences. Now, before I do, I want to talk really quickly about templates. Reach is all about templates. In fact, we have dozens and dozens of pre-built templates that are available for you to reuse right out of the box. And so when I click on Add Dashboard at the top, from templates, you'll see that we have a very large variety of dashboard templates available for you. Now, one thing that makes Reach kind of very unique, I guess, is that we have a lot of customizations that are available. And so we're going to walk you through some of them. And so the reason I start with that is because any dashboard you see is going to be a starting point for you rather than an endpoint. Okay, a lot of tools will give you templates, but those are going to be the endpoints. But because of Reach's customizability, you're going to find that this is just going to give you a starting point that you're going to be able to launch off from. Now, I'm going to scroll right to the bottom to my demo dashboard. I'm going to click Add Dashboard, and you'll see it launch here. And you can see just like that, when I click Open, you can see that these white squares we call metrics are already pulling data directly from QBO. And so if you wanted to look at your income, for example, back in June, and my data is a little bit behind the times, and so we're looking at 2023, but the data in June of 2023, these numbers are coming directly from QuickBooks. So really, really cool. Things like return on assets, that's a calculation being done right within Reach immediately as you launch this company. Now, each of these white squares you can see come in a variety of shapes and sizes to make your data beautiful and comfortable for your clients to read and understand. You have the ability to remove any metric that you don't want. You can also change the size of metrics and reposition them. Everything is click and drag, making it very easy to adjust on the fly. As well, every metric has a menu button that you can click edit for. And when you click edit, it takes you into the spreadsheet backend. And now look at here, we have an additional tab. So this is where we were and this is where we are now. And people love this about Reach. A lot of tools will have you come in and you'll have to almost learn a new computing language or developer language. With Reach, if you know spreadsheets, which I know most of you do, you're going to feel very much at home when you jump in here. So for example, this row here, change year over year, if I click on this cell and you wanted to dig in to find out what this formula says, you can see that the formula is identical to what you would expect to see in Excel. And so you can change that formula if you want. You can use that formula. Maybe you're just wondering, hey, how is this thing calculated? Well, now you can kind of track along. C1 would be April of 2023's total income. H1 is April of 2022's total income. So this is a year over year kind of growth calculation. And it's going to show that it was a 39% growth. And so creating calculations can be very easily done. If I hover over this, you can see the data is coming from QuickBooks, such as your COGS, your total income, your gross profit. Anything with a wrench is going to be custom, and it starts out as a blank row, and you have the ability to put anything you want in there. Now, adding data to Reach is super, super simple. You can add it by using the Add Rows button or an Add Columns button. Typically, our Add Rows button is going to take us to our data picker. And again, you can see all of the data that's available for you. Like this is all good to go. Your category level, parent account, sub account, it's filterable by class or by location. All of these are free game for you to build into your metrics. And so, for example, if I go to my balance sheet and say I wanted to bring in a checking account, I click Save. And at the bottom of my table, notice here now that I have my checking account with my balance for any of the coordinating periods that are showing. Now, just like a spreadsheet, we have a lot of the same formatting tools. So I can say paint format and I can make it look pretty. Okay. And just like that, I've created a metric a little bit more unique for my client specific needs. Now scrolling up, potentially I want to add a column, so let's go and do that as well. I'm going to add actuals. We have the ability to add months, quarters, trailing 12, this year, last year, 2 years ago, almost any period you could imagine. But for fun, let's just go in and add year to date, click add. And again, let's paint format that to make that look pretty. And just like that, you have an additional line or additional column showing that another date range. And when I click Save and Close, this is going to take me back to that same dashboard we were just playing in. And notice now it's just a little bit more customizable for my client's needs. Now, if I click Add Metric, I can also pull from my metric templates. Now, Reach comes preloaded, as you might expect, with a ton of metrics that are available for you, again, right out of the box. And say, for example, you know what? I love to talk to my clients about break even, but it just takes so much time for me to calculate this every single month. Boom. Now it's automated. And just like that, you now have a break-even graph where your clients can simply hover over and see what their break-even point was for last month or last 3 months or even last year. What was my break-even point? Well, now they can find it themselves. The last way that you can add metrics is to create them yourself by clicking on the quick build. This is going to take you to this screen, which is going to say, hey, what do you want to use in terms of time frame? What do you want to use in terms of data? In this case, I'm going to bring in my total income. And now I'm going to actually show you another little feature where you can bring in non-financial data into Reach. Things like number of employees, anything that's not coming directly out of QuickBooks by clicking, you can upload it using Google Sheets or Excel, or you can just type it into our own data sheet tool. In this case, I'm going to bring in number of employees. I'm going to insert a row below, and I'm going to create a KPI. This equals my income divided by my number of employees. And just like that, I can click and drag that across, and I can say income per employee. Now, these little blue eyes are kind of fun because I can hide them from the results below. Notice when I click on income and number of employees, now I'm just looking at income per employee, and I can change it into a column chart or a line chart or a variety of different formats. In this case, let's look at a line chart, and maybe we want to communicate a trend. So we're going to add a trend line. Boom. Now we got a trend line. Okay, at least we're trend lining up in the right direction. Maybe instead we want to add a goal line. And let's do that. Let's add a goal and say, let's do $1,200 of income per employee. Now, this is something that's very easy to read and understand, and this is what clients love to look at. I'm going to click Create and Close, and just like that, we now have a dashboard, another step further in terms of perfect for my clients' needs. And when it's perfect for their needs, they're actually going to read it. And when they read it and they look at it, they're going to understand it, and they're going to make the important business decisions they need to make to keep that ship floating and going down off to battle. Now, this is kind of fun here. We have this AI tool where Reach will actually utilize AI to analyze any metric or group of metrics we want. And when I click on here, notice it's going to give me all of the different metrics that are in this dashboard. And so, for example, say you wanted to give your clients a little bit more explanation of what's happening with income per employee. I'm going to click Analyze, and notice it highlights and it starts to write exactly what's happening in verbiage. So now you can use this to put it into an email, or maybe you're just using it to read off to your clients so that you can help them understand. Um, Perhaps you're not sure what to point out on this whole dashboard. And so in that case, select it all, and Reach will actually go through the whole thing and say, let's actually pull out these insights, these top things, because we want to make sure that they're seeing the most important things. And so you can give that access to your clients, or you can keep it to yourself. Ultimately, in the end, the concept is that you're going to create and publish this dashboard. You're going to create a copied shared link. And just by pasting that into an email, your clients can bookmark this on their iPad or on their computer, desktop, wherever it is. And notice that it's view only. They can't change it, but it's there and available for them on demand anytime they want to see it. Now, I do want to pick up a little bit of speed here. We're going to dive into reports here. So reports, as I mentioned, are very similar to dashboards. You can put all of the graphs, you can put all the tables, the AI works, we'll show you that as well. All of that stuff can be done in a dashboard and in a report. But what makes the reports a little bit different is when you click on a report, again, we have many, many templates, which I'm going to quickly pull up so you can see what we start with. And I'm going to click add, now open it. And again, with just a few seconds, we're now looking at data coming directly from QBO into Reach reporting in a very fun way. Now, as I scroll through here, you're going to see that the reports are very, like you might expect in a report. It's going to be a page. You can see there's text, right? We can bring in text blocks. You can double click into the text and make that say anything you want it to, very, very simply. Scrolling through here, it's got this blue color throughout. Maybe your client has a logo that you want to bring in. I'm going to delete that one. I'm going to put in the Reach reporting logo, kind of matches. But whatever the pictures or images that you're looking for, here's a client logo, right? All of that stuff can be put in very, very easily. And notice the click and drag functionality. Now, if you wanted to change the format of the color throughout the report, you can easily do the theme color change here. Let's change it to yellow. And notice now when I scroll through here, everything that was following that blue color can now be colored and fitting your exact firm colors and logos and whatnot. Now, again, the reports here, click and drag, right? So I can move the metric wherever I want. Maybe I want to add a little bit of commentary. I can slide that over and I can click on my text box and I can drop in a line of text. Okay, communicate some things to my clients, some narrative if I want. This is where the AI can come in really cool, and you can say, hey, let's actually not try and invent what to say. Let's actually just use AI to say it, what we want it to say. And then you can, of course, copy and paste from here and drop it into the report. And then next month, when it's no longer necessary, you can click and drag and change it again. The fun thing about any dashboard or report is that once you build it and customize it to your needs, you can actually click on the gear here and you can say save as template. And that can become your firm's new kind of secret sauce, your special offering that nobody can get anywhere else. There's no time where the client's going to go across the street and say, hey, I'm going to get the report from firm B down the road. They're going to help you really differentiate yourself in the market. Scrolling through here, lots of pages. I can remove pages. I can add pages. So much flexibility, so much customization. And ultimately, we're going to dive down to the very bottom where we have our statements. Statement packages act very much like metrics. If I customize it here, it's going to take me to the back end where I can use formulas, okay, similar to in case of percentage of income. I can use the formula again like you would use in Excel. Variances are going to be the same formulas. I can collapse and expand your accounts to kind of look the level and the design that you're looking for. Again, filtering by class or location can be done. And when you save and close it, it's going to remember all of the edits you've made. And so next month you come in here, the data will have just refreshed that morning. Okay, again, I mentioned I would show you if you click here, you can refresh it immediately as well. Then your reporting is essentially come in here, flick through the report, take a quick look at things, and then PDF it, and it's ready to send off to your client. So very, very quick. All of those of you that said, hey, you're stuck in Excel or you're stuck spending a lot of time doing this kind of stuff, now it should take you minutes per month to create reports. Now you can use all that extra time that you were spending before building those reports. You can spend them with your clients. You can spend them building those relationships and deepening those relationships, or looking for more insights in the reports that potentially would have gone unnoticed if you hadn't looked at them in the past. Now, in any one of our reports or dashboards, there's three different types of data. There's actuals coming out of QuickBooks. That's your past, performance, your historic numbers. We can also sync budget or forecast numbers directly from QuickBooks if they're in there. However, we can also create budgets and forecasts in Reach. And then the third umbrella number, as I mentioned previously, is the non-financial numbers. We're talking, any numbers that are not coming out of QuickBooks, number of employees, number of customers, number of visits to your store, that kind of stuff. So we're going to spend just a couple of minutes on creating a budget or forecast in Reach. Now I'm going to click on this. It's going to open up my budget forecast screen. This is going to show you all of the different budgets that I have created at the moment. Notice I have a budget and a forecast. These are actually, it's kind of deliberate because budgets and forecasts are very different in Reach. A budget essentially is going to stay the same throughout the year, and you're always reporting against it. A forecast changes as time goes by. So as you have new actuals coming in, new numbers will help inform where you're going throughout the year, and so you can forecast where you're going to go. Now, just like the other aspects of Reach, you're going to find that it's very spreadsheet feeling, right? So again, no new language you need to learn here. It's all super straightforward. For example, I can type in numbers. I can click and drag them. I can use formulas, right? So bond expense here is a percentage of revenue. As my revenue grows, my bond expense will grow here as well. But what makes Reach amazing is the ability to reference past numbers. So as an example, in row 8 here, you can see I have this little forecast algorithm set up. I can choose on any row the different setting I want. And in this case, I'm going to take previous 24 months of data and I'm projecting it forward. So every number in this row it's not a formula, it hasn't been typed in, it's actually predicted based off your past performance. Line 10, similarly, if I hover over this one, based on a previous period, it's very similar. I can see where we're taking last year's numbers and adding a percentage. So in this case, last year is the line graph, and percentage-wise, we're increasing it by 10%, or we can play with that as we want. And so every single line can have a unique setting, or you can actually do a bunch of settings all in one go. You can even do like a quick and dirty, let's just do something really simple, last year's numbers plus 3%, and do it all in one go. But the concept is that you have the ability to go through this line by line, section by section, and ultimately get yourself all the way down to a net profit line. That net profit line, and this is really fun. If you've ever tried to do this in Excel, you'll know that this is like mind-blowing. But our net profit line will automatically flow onto your balance sheet under your net income. As well, our AR and our AP will automatically flow based on some formula calculations that, is it 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, any of that kind of stuff, that will automatically flow as well, helping you predict what your cash is going to do at any given time. And so in the end, your P&L, your balance sheet, and your cash flow statement are all going to work and sync seamlessly back and forth, allowing you to help your clients predict and plan for cash and any capital expenditures, loan payments, inventory purchases, any of that kind of stuff, and help you predict what your cash is going to do, which is really, really fun. Finally, I'll just quickly touch on this data sheet. Every once in a while, you might have a number that is like, hey, I want this number to be predicted based on something else maybe unique, right? So for example, total sales might be predicted based on how many widgets you're selling, or how many salespeople you have selling, or how many people you plan to hire. Well, Reach allows you to have this spreadsheet kind of function here in the data sheets where you can say, let's create formulas using calculations here, and let's predict numbers such as total sales, in this case, 13,743, and draw that directly into a line on your P&L. In this case, 13,743, as you can see here. So lots of fun stuff that you can do. We have full demos, full webinars that go all over budgeting and forecasting. So we definitely recommend you checking those out. In the end, once you create a budget, what we generally tell people is to duplicate that budget, turn it into the second one into a forecast. And the forecast will allow you to have this additional dial where at the beginning of the year, it's kind of looking like this. And then every month as time goes by, or every quarter, depending on how frequently you want to reforecast, you can simply push the data and the live numbers forward further. Things like trailing average is really fun for this. So in this case, we have trailing average, which is 3 months. And so you can see in this line, those 3 months are the average is 4689, which you can see is pushed forward, right? And if I go ahead and go backwards a few months, you can see that it's changing it depending on what we have for actuals, which is really, really fun. Annual target is another good one. So this one's got an anchor of 18,000 for the year. Here's my 18,000. And if I had 9 months to do it, it's going to be $2,000 a month. But say, for example, we're 6 months further, or 3 months further, we're 6 months total, we got 0 all the way across. Now we need to get $3,000 a month to hit that goal. So lots of kind of those little fun automated reforecasting tools really make this a pleasure to play with. And then what really makes this fun and fantastic is that all of those numbers, your budget numbers, your actuals, your forecast numbers, your non-financial numbers, all of those numbers can be put together into a package for reporting. And again, Reach has so many templates that are available for you, and some are specific to show your forecast. So if I click on here, it's going to show that we have some reports that are specifically designed for forecasting, or these ones are for budgeting. We have some auto forecasts, which is a really cool thing as well. And so lots of fun stuff to kind of jump in and explore. Okay, last thing I'll quickly touch on is the AI builder. Just because this is really, really fun, we also have the ability to create a report directly from scratch for you using AI. So if I click on add report, AI generated, it's going to allow me, it's going to give me a couple dials to choose from, but I'm going to click next and I'm going to click create. And all of our other report templates are kind of built with the concept of larger overall numbers. What's your total income, your total revenue? How does it change over time? Well, now you can see that that's going to work pretty well for most clients. But what's really cool is we can actually leverage AI to build a report for you. And it's going to look at all of your numbers. It's going to look at your trends, your variances, things that are going to stand out. You can still treat it like any other Reach reporting tool. But now, instead of looking at just total sales, it's actually looking at what's making up those sales based on the chart of accounts and how the chart of accounts is organized. What's it look like, and what's most important for you as an advisor to show your client. And so this is available for you again right out of the box. You have this AI tool. You can still jump in and edit any of these. Say, for example, this one, maybe we want to tweak it so that it looks a little bit different. Maybe we want it to match like the other ones. You click save and close. And just like that, it's changed. You can still run the AI analysis, but every one of these things, even these little sentences, are going to tell you what it's trying to show in here. And so really, really fun tool, and we definitely recommend you checking it out. All right, with the last few minutes, I want to quickly jump back into the presentation, and then we're going to have some questions. So I'm going to click back on our presentation here, and let's see where we are here. Okay, so we've shared a lot of things with you guys in the demo here. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. Because of the customizable nature of Reach, you can really do so much. And what you can see here is, in these squares, multi-currency conversion, AR and AP aging reports, consolidations by class. There's so much depth to this tool, and it would take us forever to kind of go through every single thing. And so we really challenge you to come to us with your reporting needs and let us help you see how they can be fixed. Reach reporting can become a powerful differentiator for your business. Kind of like your secret sauce, as I mentioned previously, our clients find that they're not only able to provide reports that their clients actually read, but that these reports are helping their clients navigate their business in a way that's truly meaningful. As well, Reach reporting firms find that they can attract new clients, that they can retain current clients longer, and that they can charge their clients more for their services. So this is like win, win, win. So why does this matter? Well, whoever you are, whatever you do in your business, in your firm, if you are in the business of communicating complex financial information to stakeholders or decision makers, Reach can help. accountants and advisors, CFOs and executives, small businesses, whoever you are, Reach can help. And what we're finding with over 500 reviews at an average of over 4.9 rating, more and more we're hearing that Reach is changing the lives of business owners and the trajectory of businesses all over the world. Now, before we get into some final and next steps in Q&A, let's go to our third and final poll question. And so the question here is, how do you feel about your current reporting and planning process? And the answers are, we definitely need a better solution. It works for now, but I see gaps in what we're doing. Or we're good. We're in good shape. Just curious today. Okay, and the winner is, it works for now, but I see gaps in what we're doing, followed closely behind with, we need a better solution. Well, that's fantastic. We hope we've given you some good ideas here today. So one really cool thing, we're really excited to announce that Reach Reporting will be at Intuit Connect in October, and we'd love to see you there. If you've ever been there before, you'll know that this is an awesome event filled with innovators, pros, and problem solvers, and we're pumped to be a part of it again for another year. Mark your calendar, and if you're going, definitely come and find us. We'll load you up with some cool swag and give you a firsthand look at what we're up to. In terms of next steps, if you're excited to learn more, we've got you covered. Just scan the QR code right here, and it'll take you straight to our calendars where you can book some time with one of our fantastic team members. They'll get you set up in a free 30-day trial, answer your questions, and help you start using Reach in a way that actually moves the needle towards your goals. No pressure. We're just good people ready to help you do some really cool things. All right. So I hope that some questions have been coming into the Q&A. For the rest of the presentation, I'd love to dive into some questions because I know we went pretty quickly through a lot of the things in Reach. So if there's anything that you want to spend more time in, or you have some deeper questions on, happy to jump out of this slide and go back into Reach to show you something or to just answer the questions for you. So does anybody have any questions?
Hey, Arthur, one popular one that came up a few times is if you could talk a little bit more about collaborating on budgets and forecasts with clients. Is that something that we can enable role access to do and Reach, or how are people going about collaborating with their clients on budgets and forecasts?
Yeah, totally. I can actually quickly point this out too. So we do have the ability for you to collaborate inside of Reach. So if you click on, just jump into the budget and forecast, beside any one of the plans here that I have, notice these little heads, that's indicating that it's in our client portal. And so we have a couple options. We have view only in client portal, and we have editable in client portal. And so by clicking on these little gears here, you can actually include it in the client portal. It can be view only, it can be editable. In the view only, they can comment, they can see all the calculations you've done. In the editable, they actually have the full access to the builder just like you do. And so, for example, some of my clients will actually create a second version for their clients to jump in and play with. So they're not wrecking your kind of original, but allow your clients some ability to give some input into what their plan is going to do.
Fantastic. Another one that kind of came up is along the lines of chart of account changes from month to month, or if I even need to remap accounts in Reach. What does that look like?
Yeah, so Reach handles that all automatically. So that's definitely one of the pain points we heard in the past, right? You're building a report for the month and it's to you, it's done. It looks awesome, right? It's perfect, exactly what you're hoping for. And then the client comes back, it's like, oh, we need to make a quick change, right? And maybe it's a change to the numbers, maybe it's a chart of account that was updated, whatever that looks like. With that little sync button that we have in the bottom corner, you simply click on that sync button and all of the numbers sync and update. So you just go into QuickBooks Online, make your changes, adjust them, click sync, and in no time, whether it be a new account or whether it be numbers that have changed, it makes it really, really simple for you to update. And within moments, you're on your way again. Great questions.
Can we create custom templates for each client? Example, ARAP aging reports, things that are kind of just more specific to each client.
Yeah, yeah. So when you click on Add Statement, one of the options is when you click Create New is to select your statement type. And so we do have AR and AP aging statements available in here. You can click on these and add them to any report that you want. I've seen some of our clients put them in a dashboard. Maybe their clients are struggling to collect, and it's a little bit of a pain to jump into QuickBooks and see where they're at any given minute. And so sharing a dashboard with their client, they can just bookmark and they can see, okay, how are we doing with our AR at the moment? Can give you a really, really quick insight into how your collections are going, or of course, payables as well.
We got some awesome Reach users in the chat already that are with us as clients. So can you some of the questions are around maybe pointing out some resources in terms of like just where they could get some video tutorial help or other resources that are available for them to booking meetings with like a
Yes.
client success rep.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So just clicking on this will get you straight to one of our reps. So definitely like click on it, scan it on your phone, whatever. Take a screenshot of this and have it available if you want. That's pretty easy. We also have inside of the tool, we have video tutorials. Generally, what we recommend whenever there's a new user to reach, to check out these top, I guess they're called the Learn the Basics videos. There's 9 of them. It would take you 45 minutes to watch them all. And these are really, really good for kind of getting your foot, you know, your wheels going, understanding what's available in a well-rounded way. However, looking on the left here, we can collapse and expand any number of additional videos here, and we're always adding to these. Additionally, if you wanted to search, say for example, you're like, hey, what is the scratch pad all about? Just by typing in scratch, you can see, we can get a video right on that. And our videos are quick and to the point. So you can see this one's a minute and 25 seconds. And so you can really get your answers quickly. We also have training webinars that happen every week. We have one on forecasting that happens every Friday, which really expands out what we were talking about in terms of the budgeting and the forecasting. We have a foundations one, which does training on Tuesdays and Thursdays on really basics, kind of getting your workspace set up and getting your team organized. And then on Wednesdays, we have one called Top Tips, which really dives into some more customizations that are available inside of your reports. And we get really, really good feedback on these. They're about 30 minutes long each, and they're really, really powerful in terms of allowing you to dig into what Reach has to offer. And of course, if you have questions that aren't answered in any of those things, of course, just reach out to us. We're known for being very customer focused and centric. And so if you have any client have any needs that you want to sit down and visit with us, we would love to have a one-to-one with you and over a Zoom call and get all your questions answered.
Another one kind of that I've seen, how much time can I realistically save each month from going from something like Excel to Reach?
Yeah, great question. So maybe 10 to 15 minutes per client for the most basic of reporting. But where Reach really shines is when there's a change to the bookkeeping, or you need to rebuild the report, or if like a formula breaks in Excel, obviously that's going to take a lot of time to redo and redo and redo and find the issues and challenges. One client we had, and that's just if you're just doing the most basic reports. Of course, if you're doing graphs and tables and charts, you can imagine that this can save you hours. However, we had one client that was delivering a report to their clients for months. And before they started sending off Reach reporting reports, one thing they noticed as soon as they received that Reach reporting report is that one of the numbers was actually wrong. And they'd been reporting it for months prior. And the sad thing wasn't necessarily that the number was wrong. Obviously, that's sad in itself. The real sad thing was that they were building this report for months and the client wasn't even reading it. No one looked closely enough to spot the error, and only when the report was easier to read did they see the issue. And so this really speaks to how important it is to give your clients something that they read and that they'll understand. So many clients are building, they're working on their business and they're wearing 100 different hats, and maybe somebody they quit on them randomly, and maybe they're trying to make cash flow for this next week, and there's a million of different things that they're struggling with. To give them something that they need to sit down and spend time on and read and like digest uh, is doing them a disservice. What we want to do is give them something that's really super easy to understand and gain insights from, so that they can really help drive their business forward. So hopefully that helps.
Another good one that kind of came in here for chart of accounts across consolidations. How does Reach kind of look at that if they're, a little messy or if they've gotten out of shape, and kind of how that looks in terms of a consolidation?
Oh yeah, great question. So Reach will, there's two parts to this question. So today, Reach, and I guess in the future as well, Reach will look at the chart of accounts names and structure, and it will match like with like. So if it has the same parent account, same sub account, it'll actually draw those accounts together automatically. Now, when the accounts are very different, what it'll actually do is it'll actually flake them in vertically on the statement. So it's going to show everything, but it might show it very, very long if you have two companies that are very, very different. Why I said things are going to be changing a little bit is, and this is a little bit of insight into some things that are coming down the road here, is we're going to have a mapping tool being released here within the next short period, where you'll be able to go into your company settings and you'll be able to completely remap your chart of accounts. And so if you have two clients with very different or very messy accounts, you're going to be able to organize those accounts in the way that you want, put them in the groups that you want with the names that you want, and then the consolidation is going to work very, very seamlessly in matching them together. And so it'll give you a ton of power when you're creating your consolidated reports or any report templates for, say you have, sometimes we have clients that have lots of clients in the same kind of niche, right? So maybe it's a dentistry type firm where they have hundreds of dental clients. Well, every dental client's going to come in with a different chart of account structure. But if you want to use some of our reports, or maybe you want to create some cool KPIs for them over and over again, this will be really, really powerful. You won't have to go into QuickBooks Online and make all those changes there. Maybe they don't even want you to do that. You'll be able to handle that directly in the reporting, and it will flow through to any report or dashboard that you create. So really, really exciting, and that's coming here in fairly short order. These are some great questions. Keep them coming, guys.
Another question that kind of came through about white labeling. Is it possible to white label the reports or dashboards?
Yeah, absolutely. So we kind of touched on it a little bit prior, but like a report, for example, I'm just going to slide this guy up, can be white labeled right out of the box, right? So say this was like your firm logo. You could put I'm going to take reach reporting out, so that's simple. But any kind of logo that you want can easily be brought in here. Let's just drop in this one here. Um, and if you scroll through this report, there's nowhere, when you publish that, there's nowhere that it says reach reporting. So when you write white label, you're trying to, I guess, present your firm front and foremost, and essentially hide or mask that you're using reach reporting. And so you can see the reports are easy to white label right out of the box. Now, from time to time, you may want to use a dashboard or a client portal. And the dashboards, when you share the link for the dashboard, let me just quickly show that. Let's see here, publish, copy link. When you share this with the client, notice that it has the reach reporting logo. and the name reach reporting, and even the URL says reach reporting on it. Um, and so if you want, we actually do have a service where we can completely white label that for you. We can change it so it shows your logo, your firm name, as well. It will say your brand, so your domain here. It may say something like reporting.yourfirm.com. And that way, they're going to see only your logo and your stuff. And again, it's going to be completely masked that you're using reach reporting, which again, kind of adds to that differentiation and that kind of secret sauce that's available. Lots of great questions. Thank you.
We've got a couple questions around our pricing. Is it only annual? Is it monthly? Prorated annually? What is that going to look like?
Yeah, I can speak to that. So I actually have this tab up here for pricing. This is on reachreporting.com/pricing, so it makes it easy for you to access. There's no contracts when you work with Reach Reporting. It's all month to month or year to year. Our monthly pricing goes down as you use us more for your different clients, right? So the more clients you use us for, the cheaper the pricing is. So for example, a single connection is 149. Now this might be for like a business coming to us directly. They have their own internal controller or CFO and they just want to use Reach. However, as soon as we get into more than one, right? So two and two and higher, the pricing drops. And at 10, it's actually 290, which is cheaper than buying, two single connections. So 290 gets you 10 connections, and each connection is a QuickBooks entity. So for example, one set of books is counts as one connection or one QuickBooks entity. Adding additional ones are $29 each. If you get into the 25 level range, they're $22 each. We have additional price breaks at 50, 100, and into the thousands, of course, if you're a larger firm. And so lots of savings to be made as well. If you subscribe annually, any of our packages will give you some savings. So again, on a 10 pack, you can save $1,000 essentially on the whole year if you subscribe for a year. Now, of course, there's no contract, so you can quit after that year or quit after the month anytime you want. But that gives you some ways to save some money if you wanted to proceed with Reach. One of the discounts we give when you're first signing up into Reach is if you subscribe during your trial period, there's a 3-month period where you get 30% off for your first 3 months on a monthly basis as well, which can be really, really enticing if you're just getting your feet wet in Reach and figuring things out. Gives you a nice way to kind of get up and get ramped up without saves you some money.
Are they charged for users?
Users are actually absolutely free. So this is the only thing we charge on, essentially. So everything I showed you today is all included in these prices along with unlimited users. So you can have as many users as you want. You can build as many reports as you want, dashboards, any of that kind of stuff. There's no limits on any of that. And so, yeah, lots of flexibility there. And we don't charge for any training or onboarding. We are very hands-on with you, and we'll make sure that you're off and running in very short order, trained. Help us understand what your challenges are. Help us to understand where you need help, and we have reps sitting here waiting to work with you.
We just have 1 minute left, so this will be the last question. What makes Reach different from some of the other reporting tools out there?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So Reach is, I kind of mentioned it when we were talking through our slides. Reach kind of finds itself right in the middle of a tool that could either be very, very customizable or just very, very automated. We like to say the marriage of the best of the two worlds. Not only are we extremely customizable, but we're also very automated. And so we give you the ability to start with something very, very quickly, right out of the box. Within minutes, you can send something to your clients that you're going to be proud of and that they're going to love. But that's not the end. You not only have that, you also have the ability to customize that and tweak it and change it as your clients' needs and as your needs change. you have that ability. And so Reach just gives you that ability to kind of find yourself right in the middle of the box, and allows you to do some really, really cool things in a really, really efficient and easy manner. So yeah, thanks for asking that.
All right, we are right at time. Any final thoughts you want to add, Arthur, before we sign off?
Just come talk to us. We're friendly people here. We're very, very zero pressure. We want you to see it. We want you to try it. We want to help you through it. And so we just really encourage you to give us a shot, try it out, and see your clients' numbers in a way that you've never seen them before. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Arthur, and thank you, Reach Reporting, for your time today and everyone who was able to join us. Have a great day.
Bye.